Welcome everybody to the John Urban Textiles Mill Open Weekend. You are the first talk of the weekend, so well done for getting in the room. And this one is about capturing the rainbow, creating heathered shades with Sonja and Helena, both of them. Which is one of the things that I think John Urban Textiles does particularly well, is those beautiful heathered shades. So I'm going to leave you in their very capable hands, pass the microphone back to them.
Thank you.
And I'm now going to escape the room and go and sell more yarn.
Cheers, Fay.
Hi.
Perfect. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Yes. For those of you who don't know, we are the owners of John Urban Textiles.
Yeah.
And our favourite part of our job is making the pretty colours.
Definitely.
So we thought we would tell you how we do that.
Yes. Yeah. And then seeing what you make with all of those things we create as well, of course. I think that's the thing that's really special about something like this, is you all come visit us, because usually it's just all of us in a room, a very small room in the mill, talking to each other.
And we don't bring our nice knitwear because we don't want to bring it to the mill and ruin it.
Yeah, that is one of the funniest things about the Open Weekend, is actually just seeing everyone in real clothes.
Yeah, we've actually dressed up. We're not wearing filthy dungarees today.
Yeah. Perfect. So, yes, we thought we would theme this chat around our Yarnadelic, because that's what this year's specials are largely designed in, and it's one of our kind of favourite yarns. You all seem to love it too, so I can see a couple of you are wearing some Yarnadelic, which is nice. But it's the same principles that we use to kind of make all of our other ranges as well. So let me see if I can make my mouse work.
You might need to put it on a piece
There
of
we go.
paper if
That's
it's unhappy.
us.
Yep.
That's very helpful.
Just in case you didn't recognise us.
And then here is the Yarnadelic. So it first came out in, was it 20?
Just pre-pandemic, but only just.
Yeah, it was January of 2020.
I think the tops got an outing the previous year, but the yarn was only just out.
Yeah, and originally it was just in a sport weight, and now we do a worsted as well, and then the tops too, of course. And then here are our three specials. You can see them outside if you care to. And then we've also got samples on the table as well. So these specials, we always like to do a couple limited editions for our open weekend. And these ones were designed by some of our favourite designers, which was a real treat. So from left to right, we've got Alex Bird, did the dark brown, which I'm also wearing. And she is like a real kind of colour work whiz. She's doing a steeking class this weekend as well. And then we've got Emily from Tin Can Knits in the middle. And
nice
it's this
teal.
really beautiful kind of rich teal. They always have such, all Tin Can Knits patterns have got such gorgeous colours, don't they? And then the last one is
Isolde's, which is there.
Which is here. So that's designed by Isolde again, who is just like such a kind of prolific and talented designer.
She's been designing a lot in Yarnadelic recently,
Yeah.
which is why we asked, because she did a couple in her Knitworthy and a couple of other things recently. So she's been really into the Yarnadelic recently.
Yeah, but she's just like, she's got such an eye for like making like really wearable patterns, I think. So then this is all the main range of the Yarnadelic.
The original inspiration, because this was back when John was still around and he is very into his music. He has now turned what used to be the yarn shop into a sort of junk and record shop.
Antiques.
But yeah, so it was like we were listening to all of the sort of music that he was picking out and then sort of trying to pick colours that went with it, and that was like how the inspiration went. So all of the ones in the Yarnadelic are named after songs in some way or other, which was great fun. It's very different approach to trying to pick colours than normal.
Yeah, it was good. We had a fun evening where we both went round John's house and he played us lots of records, and then we tried to, if anyone's heard of synesthesia, so it's like seeing colours. So we sort of listen to the music and then try and channel like what colours that particular track sort of evokes.
And obviously, some of them just have a colour in the name, which does help, because you're like, I wonder what colour Pink Moon should be.
Not blue.
No. Some of them were a bit more abstract.
Yeah. But this was also kind of the first range we did at the mill that's got more of those heathered shades. So it's something we're kind of doing more and more of, but this is probably the first one. So then there we've got all of the actual yarn. And then there it is as tops. And you can really start to see that heathering is much more noticeable in the tops, especially the one at the front, nobody knows, and the one on the end. They're some of the more heathered ones. And then we just use those colours to
make that whole palette.
Make all of that. So it's these solid colours here, and we'll kind of blend them up like a recipe, and each one has got an exact percentage. So you'd think those flat colours don't look that exciting, and then we use those to make all of the more heathered ones. On this machine here, which is a gill box.
That one is A2D2.
And we've got a little video of how a gill box works. So this is a little outtake for our virtual open weekend this year. We, together with Bex, who is filming this, have made a brand new mill tour. So this is a little outtake from that, which is why Laura's talking.
But you can't hear her.
No. But you can explain the process over the top.
Yes, so this is Ralph, one of our other gill boxes. So she's making, I think this is when it was raspberry she's making. So she's putting 6 different ends of colour in. So they get fed up and lined up along that bed. So those ends in there very carefully and run the machine slightly, and it just pulls them through. And inside sort of the head of the machine, you can't see, it has lots and lots of teeth like cones that sort of go round in a circle to put it through. I don't know if I showed you. So feeding it through, all the way through the bit at the front, down into a can that's underneath the basket.
And you can see already the colour coming out of the front is much more blended than the individual colours coming out the back.
So there's where it's just running through into the can, and you can see, like you can just sort of Some of them really look like a bit like ice cream when they come out.
Definitely.
So how many times would you typically put something through the gill box before you spin?
So it depends, largely 2 or 3 times. So if it's less blended and more heathered, we'll put it through twice. And if it's more of an even shade like Devonia or Knit by Numbers, that will go through 3 times. And then we'll also gill all the solid colours once individually before. So I think that's, especially a lot of spinners say that our tops are really well prepped, and I think we probably do this gill box, kind of run everything through the gill box a bit more than some other people do.
It brings it down to a lighter weight, like grams per metre. We're going to see the teeth in a second, which also makes it easier for drafting, because sometimes if you buy solid tops, they're maybe 20 to 24 grams per metre, so they can be quite dense. So a lot of naturals often come like that. But we gill everything down to like about a 16, so it just means it's a bit more open. It's
got a bit more air in it, for sure. So the gill box is like blending it and then also drafting it out. I think we'll see the teeth in a minute. There's the teeth, look.
So you can see it, she's holding them.
And there's about 100 of them in there, probably,
there's a lot
on the top and the
so
bottom.
you can see she's opened it there. It's got a whole, like a double row on the bottom and on the top, and they like go round on a track so that it's constantly feeding it through. And that's what helps like pull all the fibre through, but also gives it a nice little brush at the same time. So it blends them, it aligns them. But yeah, they're very sharp. It's great fun having to clean those. End up with a lot of holes in your fingers.
They do use an actual toothbrush as well, like a kind of toothbrush made of wire.
Yes, they use a wire toothbrush, yes. But yeah, so showing that there are different thicknesses is what she's showing you there. So Ralph and A2D2, just the sort of workhorse ones, they've got one grade, and then Cuthbert, which is our third one, can do the finer grade things. He's got finer teeth. So that's anything with silk or nylon or alpaca goes through that. Most things go through that on like their first pass as well, just to make sure they're very well blended. See, this one is Cuthbert.
There's Phil with Cuthbert, and I think he's probably making Marie Wallen.
One of these colours here.
No, this is actually Jameson's.
Oh, it's the Jameson's ones.
Lovely.
But yes, so you can see that it's taking in. Yes. But yeah, so you can see where all the colours are going in, sort of fairly solid colours, and then coming out like that.
So once we've done the gilling, we're then off to spinning. This is Kevin, he's our big spinner.
This is only a very small part of Kevin.
Yes, exactly. What, it's maybe a quarter of Kevin?
Yeah, he has 96 working heads, so that's only probably, 20 or so there?
Yeah. And Kevin, what's special about Kevin is Kevin spins straight from tops. So anytime we've got a more heathered colour, like the Yarnadelic and the Appledore, those will spin on Kevin. So you can preserve a bit more of that kind of gentle speckle, whereas our other spinner is actually 3-hole machines, which all kind of feed into each other. So it's Drusilla, James Henry, and Butler, and that is what we make knit by numbers on. So that's why the knit by numbers is very kind of, it's an intimate blend, is what John always calls it.
Yeah, it's like it gets a little bit blended. It goes, basically it's 2 roving frames before it gets to the spinner, and each time you do that, obviously it just gets a little bit more blended. So that's why we can't do the very crazy colours on anything that gets spun on that one.
Yeah. But it also, again, is what we use for like a finer fibre. So for instance, the Alpaca Supreme, there's some silk in there. So. And then here you can see that's the same yarn, and it's this special, which is one of our open weekend specials.
Got those there.
And we've got them here as well. If at the end, you're more than welcome to come up and have a little look at everything.
So it went in as the base colours, which was
it's that one, that one.
Turquoise, yellow, orange and blue. And you make some that look like this, and some that look like this, so probably 3 and 3, but I'm not exactly sure on the recipe. But that went in, and then
became that one.
And then that's what came out next. So you can see how much more blended it became. And then that's where we stopped before we turned it into yarn.
Yes.
But so it came out then either looking like that, or to make it into tops, we put it through a 3rd time, and you get that. So you can just see the level of blending difference that you get as you go. So yeah, from the beginning, it's hard to know that that's the colour that you would have got from that.
Exactly.
It's not very obvious.
No, looking at that is very abstract as to what shade it will turn into, isn't it?
Yeah, so that is the process of that one.
So when your designer designs a yarn, do they have an image of the end product, or do they just pick what colours they want you to blend?
It's a real trial and error process. We'll come on to that. I think, in fact, that is next.
Yep.
There we go, Anne. No, it's perfect. So when we're designing one, what we do is we actually use hand carders, which are these, which will look familiar to the spinners amongst you. I always think they look like giant cat brushes.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you've got a cat or a dog, similar concept.
Exactly, just not quite as fine as the ones for pets, I think. So we use that and some scales, and we just really shrink the process down.
It's just 2 stuck together.
They're 2 stuck together. So we'll make little samples like this.
So we just do like, it's either 1 or 2 grams, like maximum, which is why we're doing tiny little scales, because each colour is like, oh, we just need 0.2.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you end up with masses. And it gets in the way. But
Exactly.
yeah, so that's how we.
So we'll just blend up a very small little amount and then spin it, and then like spin it by hand, and then see what we think of it. And then often, you know, you'll look at it and you go, could do with a bit more red. And then you'll write out a new percentage recipe, try again. And then once we have something we're happy with, that's when we'll try turning it into tops. So
Yeah.
I think probably for every colour of finished yarn we end up with, we probably make 10 to sort of 15 like little samples. There's a lot of tweaking, but it's quite a fun little project. So then when we're making an actual palette, because that's how we make one specific colour, but then of course if you're creating a palette, you need to have the same kind of principle applies of like you need a little bit of a pop and you need some darks and some lights. So
And a rainbow.
And a rainbow. You've got to end up with, you know, just because Helena likes pink doesn't mean that we can make a yarn that's just pinks.
Yes, we need to have, you need all your base neutrals and all the way through the colours, and not all of our yarn ranges have the same sort of rainbow, but they don't all start from the same base colours. We've got four sets of base colours. So we have an apple door base set, we have one that's used for the knit by numbers, the harvest hues and the alpaca supreme, and we have this one that's just used for Yarnadelic, but it's the same base colours that are used in the Devonia and the Marie Wallen. We just dye the same colours on different fibres.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So if we wanted, we could use this Yarnadelic colour palette to make or to recreate all the Devonia colours and vice versa. So it's quite interesting seeing just from these kind of solid colours, just how many different shades you can create. But yeah, when we're thinking about making a whole palette, we use colour theory. So there's a colour wheel. And obviously, I think most folks know that if you put red and yellow together, you get orange, you know? So that is kind of your colour wheel starters. And then if you put all of the colours together, you'll get kind of a sort of black, brown, quite a sludgy shade, which I personally think is nice. But what we do when we try and design a colour palette is we're really trying to make it so that as crafters, you will be able to kind of pick up 2 or 3 colours and hopefully they'll go nicely together and they'll play nicely together. I think because of the way we make the colours with the heathering, it means they're all like a little bit related. So you can pick up the blues and they'll all have the same underlying heathered colours in them. So hopefully they'll tone nicely together. So on here, we've just got a couple different kinds of colour combinations, basically. So we've got our monochromatic ones, which is just different shades of the same. And then we've got complementary, and those are on opposite sides of the colour wheel. So teal and orange, I think, is quite a popular complementary colour combo. And they'll be quite bold, but also play on each other really nicely. And then the next is analogous. I can't speak. Thank you. Analogous. And those are all ones that sit next to each other on a colour wheel. So again, like blue through teal through green, and that can make quite a harmonious colour combo. So we're always trying to think about these different effects when designing an entire palette of 18-20 shades, because it means hopefully things will go together better. Then we've got triadic and tetradic at the bottom, and those are a little bit more abstract. They can be quite bold, but if I click over to the next slide, you'll see I've just sort of mapped our Yarnadelic colours onto the colour wheel. And then you can really see that we've got like 3 blues in a row, 3 green shades in a row. Then there's that little pop of like orangey pink. And then we've also got a couple outliers in like the yellows and the purples. So we've really tried to focus on certain areas of the colour wheel so that then it makes hopefully your job as kind of crafters, it means you're not staring at a wall of like 30 different colours that don't go together. And we try and apply this same principle to all of the other palettes as well, don't we, Hels, whenever we're adding something new.
But where we said as well, like the Devonia is from the same base shades, so obviously you don't want to have too much overlap if you're doing that. So like Yarnadelic's all of this type of thing, and Devonia is all of those kind of colours, so they don't overlap too much. But
the Devonia colours are much more primary, I think, aren't they? And then these are more like secondary colours.
Yes.
And then I've just quickly added the 3 kind of open weekend specials onto there. So you can see
It's a brown at the top.
the browns at the top, and then the 2 blues are nestled in there. And that's why they fit quite harmoniously in with the palette, because they're echoing those kind of shades that the palette's already focusing on. And then there's some colour combinations, so some examples of all of these different things. So you can see we've got a couple different kind of monochromatic options, and then the complementary, the red goes nicely with those greens. Again, teal and orange, very popular colour combo, or purple and gold. The gold really makes the purple pop. And then with the analogous, and this is probably one of the things we really try and do a lot of when designing an entire colour palette to make it harmonious, is trying to have those little runs in there.
So you get a rainbow even if it's got a couple of jumps in it that they might not be perfect, like close ones, but yes. So you've got that full sort of orangey spectrum we were talking about, and like that bluey greeny one as well, and then a sort of a purpley one as well.
Yeah.
So they do sit next to each other, but yeah, there's sort of a bigger gap between each of those to the other ones, but they, if you are doing colour work, it's helpful if you can go, oh, actually, these ones all go in a row or something.
Yeah. And then what we haven't gotten into, because it's only an hour, but there's also, of course, as you'll all know, like light and dark as well. So it's helpful, especially if you're a colour work knitter, to have some light shades and some dark shades and some mid-tones. But in some ways it's harder adding, like expanding an existing colour palette than it is creating a brand new one from fresh.
Yes, where we just did the Harvest Hues, where we took that from, I think it was 13 shades, it's now up to 22 shades. So we had to spend a lot of time going, well, what have we already got? And does that one, no. What about, no. But we do that the same way that you would if you were trying to work out your mids, lights and darks for your colour work, is we take black and white photos, or we hold the camera on black and white mode over them to go, is that one light enough, is that one dark enough? So we do it in exactly the same way as you're picking, but we do it just with the bits that we've been making.
Yeah, exactly. So the colour palettes get a lot of tweaking in this like very draft phase before they actually go anywhere near the machines. Then we've got, so I think probably our favourite, and what it seems like most folks when they knit or spin with Yarnadelic as well seem to use, is like largely analogous and then just maybe one complementary colour pop, just to help everything sing. So you'll see here most of the colours are related, and then there's just a little bit of that opposite there. And then this same principle you can tie back to the tops. So a lot of our favourite colours are the ones where a lot of the base shades, like to take this special for example, most of the base shades are like in the blue, green, yellow category, but then there's a little bit of a red pop in there, and that tends to just make it sing. So then if we go back to the tops, you've got all the monochromatic shades. So these are examples of some of our colours that are just one colour with either some white or some black added. So you get that bit of heathering. We don't do that all that much. There's quite a lot in Devonia.
Devonia has quite a lot that are just like, the Bleeding Heart is just red with a bit of black, and the Cinder Glow is the opposite. It's mostly black with a little bit of red in it, just to give it a little something. And there's quite a few that are just like that with a bit of white or a bit of black in them.
Yeah. And then of course there's all of knit by numbers. That also works on the monochromatic principle. We've just got the solid colour and then they keep getting paler.
They're just blended with white to get each shade down, so it's just a step down each time.
And then we've got complementary shades. So one thing that is interesting is if you have two complementary shades and you put them together into the same kind of colour, they'll actually cancel each other out and you'll end up with like a brown, which I personally think is wonderful, but obviously isn't everyone's cup of tea. Yeah. But the Harvest Hues, the Russet and the Medlar are probably the two examples of actual just complementary shades. So orange and that kind of lime green are opposites, and actually when put together they just make a brown. But we do have a lot of other colours like Devonia Nightshade and the Waltz, where you're taking two colours that are quite far away from each other on the colour spectrum and blending them together. And it often makes these quite graphic. You can really see the heathering in there, and it's quite a strong contrast.
Yeah, the Waltz and the English Barrows in the Yarnadelic, you can really see them when you look at it because it's really quite speckly.
And then we've got, this is what we tend to do a lot of, especially increasingly, because I think Hells and I think it's fun, is how many different colours of tops can we jam in there?
Before Laura tells us off as well. She's the one that does all the actual formulas at the end to make sure it works in the gill box. So we sort of go, can we have this? And then she looks at it and mostly she manages, and sometimes she comes back and goes, I'm changing this bit. And it's like, okay, right.
That was too many colours. So these are back to the triadic and the tetradic shades, which I think unless you're a very experienced at putting different colour palettes together can be quite difficult to make a fair isle out of, but we do use that principle quite a bit in the tops, and you'll see all of those colours are very different, but then interestingly when the yarn gets spun actually they all kind of tend to cancel each other out a little bit again, and you'll end up with something a little bit more muted. I think Dufflin is the prime example of that, which as a top it looks so bananas, but if you go and look at the yarn out there, it's actually fairly subdued, and that's because all of those three colours are sort of, they're all so overwhelming that then actually your eye just goes, ooh, it's actually then sort of turns into a neutral. And then we've got a lot of analogous shades as well, and this is probably what we do most of, and that would be how you get that classic heathering. So instead of just a flat blue or a flat green, this one for instance, the Harmonium, it looks green until you get very, very close to it, and then you notice that actually there's a lot of stuff in there. It just lends that richness to a garment, I think. Pink Moon is another good example. There's actually quite a lot of different shades in there. And then finally, it's that analogous with a complementary pop. And I think that is probably the best way to get a colour that feels rich, but isn't like you're using every crayon in the box and they've cancelled each other out. So, yeah. To go back to the specials, we've got this dark one is mostly warm tones, but then there's actually a little bit of navy hiding in there. There they are. So the dark one is mostly warm shades, but then with that navy in there, and it just adds that little bit of an unexpected element to it. And then there's
a little
the
bit
teal.
of red in that one. Yeah. And then we showed you the light one where it had got like the blues and the orange and yellow to end up getting to this sort of greeny, bluey, tealy shade.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's it.
Any questions? Or anything else you'd like to do before you can come up and...
Do you feel free to come up and give everything a little squish? And, you know, I mean, it's all out there as well, but it's nice to kind of see it, and I think especially seeing the tops and the yarn next to each other, you can get a bit more of a sense of...
Do you have many disasters where you look at it and go...
Yes.
Yes.
Where we try to end up with there's currently 18, there's 18 shades plus the 3 specials in the Yarnadelic, but in total over the time, we've probably blended 60, 70 odd colours, and some of them don't even get as far as being these little twiddles, because somebody made it, went, no, I don't like that, try again. Or like, sometimes, like I said, it is just we're trying to make the green, we're trying to get in our head, and you try it, and you go, no, not that, try again. And sometimes it is, we've made all of these colours, and we go, that one was horrible, we hated it. And sometimes we do love lots of the colours that don't get made, they just don't work. Like we're saying, we're trying to make a palette, so we do a lot of putting everything next to each other and going, this one just doesn't fit. So we're currently doing that with new colours of Exmoor sock at the mill, which turned up on yesterday.
Oh, exciting.
So like those ones are flat dyed, but we get the samples come in. But now we're trying the game where we then put the little samples they send us along the whole line of the colours, going which ones does it go with, which ones doesn't it go with, will it fit, do we need to tweak it? So with the ones we've just got have been tweaked, so hopefully they will fit a little bit better.
Fingers crossed.
So next year there'll be some new colours of Exmoor sock.
Did you give the designers a steer?
No.
The teal and the pale look really, really good together.
They're lovely together.
Each of them made a few different shades to start with. So I think 4 or 5, and then they sort of said, this is sort of my favourite, or these couple of ones, and then we took from those and went, right, what does actually work and what can we actually recreate? Because obviously they were doing it with those shades and the hand carders, and then like I said, we have to make sure it actually can go through the machine and come out how they want it to. So
it's always so interesting though, seeing what other people come up with, because after a while, if this is an exercise you do quite often, we both have our like, oh, well, I tend to kind of make colours that look fairly similar, and you find a routine and find the colours you like. So it's then a really interesting exercise to get someone who's never done it before to see what they'll come up with, because they will make things that are a bit unexpected or a bit different. Like I don't think it would have occurred to me to put red in the teal,
But also, our actual colour palette of things that exist currently is close to 300 colours across all of those ranges. Plus, there's all the ones that have existed in the past as a special or a discontinued line. So we're probably working with about 400 colours that we've made before anyway. So pretty much every time we make something, they go, oh, I've just made that colour again. So it's hard for us to try and find a colour that we didn't already have, but most of the time we made it, we go, oh yeah, we just made that one.
But I think that's because our brains are like, these are the colours somewhere in the background in your subconscious.
It isn't also just our brains. Everyone at the mill is welcome to join and make things. So like different people design different things. So like we had a special earlier this year, Dark Matter, and all the colours for that one was Laura and Jack, who are over in Tops, who actually do the spinning stuff, so they came up with those colours. And the squish that we do as a special, we've done a couple of times now. Lauren does those ones. So and then
Bring any specials back at all? Or is it just one?
Most
very occasionally.
Yeah.
If we really, really love them, it might be that when, like, for instance, at the next time we go, oh, we need some new Yarnadelic colours, we will probably look at what specials we have done and go, did any of those warrant being a main colour before we go and try and recreate it? Because, again, we'll just go, well, we thought we wanted a teal, and we'll go that, and we're like, oh, well, it's just that teal again. So sometimes we tweak them slightly and add them to things. Like I think with the Harvest Hues,
we added navy.
The navy, we'd done 2 navy specials previously, and also we added some teals, which were similar to ones we'd done before. So that we do look at ones we have done previously when thinking, what should we add? What did people really like? So sometimes, but it usually takes us a while to get around to it. It takes about a year or 2 to get around to from the ideas of going, let's add some colours or let's make a range, to actually getting to a point where you'd see it anyway. So by the time we've made a special, thought about it, and then it's come out, it's probably going to be at least 3 years. So you'll have forgotten that it was a special.
Do you decide which ranges you're going to add new colours to?
Sort of in vague order of which ones need a few more, haven't been refreshed in a while.
Harvest Hues, I think last had new colours in 2018,
I think it was.
So that was sort of the oldest one. But we just seemed to inch them all up. So for a while they were all around 18-ish, and now Harvest Hues is the first one to be over 20. So then they'll probably all inch to being a bit over 20.
Exmoor Sock is currently on 17 colours and is going to go up above 20 when it has a few more. Devonia went from having 14 or 15 and went up to 20 last time we added some colours to it. So yeah, bit by bit we add a few more each time.
But we always want to hear from you as well, so do let us know if there's anything you'd like.
If there's a colour we're missing
you
out
can
of the
just
300.
send us a little email, and I always write it all up, and then we have a little list of what people want. So you know, if there's a particular colour you love or a particular special you liked, definitely let us know, because it's just, I think the more ideas and the more people having input, the better the kind of end product is, you know. So.
But also, we have a few people at the mill who put input in, and we all have very different colour sense, so it helps because we're not all just going, well, this is the colours that I like.
Yeah. So then if everyone likes it means it must be quite nice.
But obviously, there's still only 15 of us who work at the mill, so that's still not that many people. So then knowing what people actually will want and go, well, is anyone going to buy this colour we've made? Does anybody like it? Is it worth doing this? Or should we have made that other one? It's like, if there are colours that you like that we haven't got, or that you particularly like that we do have, and you'd like in every version, we always want to know.
I think the most popular ones always tend to be either the really pales or the really darks. But I think that's probably because you can really see the heathering in those, you know, and it's something a bit more unique. But definitely any colour we make that's like the beautiful ones, which is just that first one over there, that and Black Gold of the Sun are the two most popular Yarnadelic colours.
You had a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you ever follow like the Pantone fashion colours?
A little bit.
We're not
knitting.
very...
Knitters tend to fall a few years behind. It's like, if you're buying just your fast fashion stuff, you're picking your Pantone colours, then we tend to notice that the colour trends for people who are crafting things themselves tends to follow a little bit further behind. So we do look at it a little bit, and we do see what people do or don't want. So we have noticed a lot more people are going for the Hay Moon and the Waltz kind of purples that were the Pantone colour. Was that last year or the year before? So those ones are popular, and Squish that we just did last year was sort of in that colour, and it was very popular. But we're not really beholden to it.
Yeah, we're not,
if we're making something that works.
We're not organised enough and I think at the end of the day what matters is if all of us who work at the mill think it's nice. So I think just to have sort of, Pantone tell us that something's cool. But also you're on a real pale purple kick at the moment, aren't you? So Helena is championing that. One. We do look at it, but then it always takes us a long time.
Like we said, it takes us a long time to develop something. So if Pantone announces at the end of the year that next year's colour is going to be something, even if we started working on it then, there's a good chance we wouldn't even release that until after that year had gone and we were on to the next one. So it's sort of, you can't really work to that. But it's always useful to know what is popular, but we do also look and see what other people are doing, what the hand dyers are currently selling lots of, or what other yarn companies are thinking is the way they're going with the colour palettes. It's always useful to see, and obviously to see what people turn up wearing when they come to shows.
I don't think that most of us knitters have got our trigger on the fast fashion pulse necessarily. It takes too long to blooming make anything, doesn't it, for it to be a colour you're only wearing.
If it's going to take us a year to design it, then you've got to knit it or spin it as well. Then we're all going to be several years behind.
We're all woefully out of date, aren't we?
But we don't care.
No.
Some hints on what the new colours are for the sock yarn.
For the sock yarn, we're going to have a black. So that actually is a good example of so many people have been asking us for a black or a real dark charcoal colour.
Toes and heels.
Yeah, and I think just because there's so many brights in that range, people wanted something that would just set them all off, and another good colour work option. So we definitely are having a black because that's what everyone wanted.
We've got a darker natural because now that we've got the Devon Naturals range, we've got the grey Exmoor Blueface, which is Gladys as a solid colour. We've switched that one in place of the white to make the sock yarn. So there's going to be one. We haven't actually spun it yet. It's due to go up next week.
Is it? Ooh.
So we haven't seen it yet. Yeah. But that one is going to be, so it's like another natural but a darker one than the mizzle. Yeah. And then the rest of
drizzle?
Drizzle.
Drizzle and mizzle.
This is how very grown up we are with naming things.
And then the rest of them we're toying
There's still a bit of a fight on which is which, but there's
might do a maroon.
Yeah, there's a sort of a burgundy colour. There's another one of the Pantone purples.
Yeah.
There's two purples in there. There's a very bright purple and the one that's like waltz. There's a sort of a terracotta-y colour that's a bit like Pink Moon that's in the running.
Like terracotta. And then I wanted like a really
Kelly
bright
green.
Kelly green, kind of like some of the shades in your jumper.
Or like Bex's water bottle, but yes, something very bright.
Ages ago, I'm getting better at clocking where they're from and what the blend is called. There's one that is called Pollen. Have you ever done one called Pollen, which is very...
Oh, Pollen Gold.
Bee pollen.
Yeah, Pollen Gold.
So that one's a Devonia one it's yellow and it's got black and orange in it, I think.
Yeah, that is our best mustard, I think. Partially because it's a bit lustrous, isn't it? So it really like shines. Yeah.
But yeah. So there are various colours that we're still fighting over, but we have to do the fighting over bit first. But everyone is fighting their own little corner for the colour that they want. So it's
Donna really wants that purple.
Donna wants the bright purple.
Yeah.
But yes, there's a couple of purples, a burgundy, a terracotta, a green, the black. There may have been another one, I can't remember anymore. But yeah.
No. Did you have a question?
What's your specific favourite thing? Is it spinning or
our favourite craft.
We're knitters.
Yeah.
We can spin a bit, not well.
Yeah.
We have all these machines that do it for us.
Yeah.
So I started out by joining the London Guild of Spinners, and that was what I sort of got into doing this and found out about the company way back when, and was doing hand spinning. And then I was like, actually, I could just go work there, and then I have a whole machine, and I don't have to do it by hand anymore. So, and we do occasionally crochet, but not very much.
I probably spin much more than I crochet. Every time it's too warm to knit. So in the summer, I tend to get the wheel out and spin. And last year, it was very warm. It was too warm to knit last year.
But then I'm older, my hands are always cold.
So I do probably do, like I maybe spin sort of 600-700 grams in a year. So it's quite a sporadic thing, but I really enjoy it. Part of it is I find it too addictive. And if I get the spinning wheel out, I'm then up to like 3 a.m. just spinning because I can't stop. So I've had a longer love affair with the knitting. It's very rare that a project's so exciting that it keeps me up until the wee hours these days. But yeah.
You did some punch needling as well. You took that one up.
Oh God, I did do the punch needle. That
all
was
the crafts.
It wasn't for me.
We take on many things and then try them and then give them up.
I'd like to do more sewing, but I don't really have the space at home. I've got a cat, and it just everything would go everywhere. Yeah. Were there any other questions or? No. Perfect. I think it's the end.
Okay. Yeah,
well, thank you all for coming, and I hope you've enjoyed it.
I hope it made some sense.
Yes.
But yes, please do come and have a squish on all of the various things and see if you can match
have
the
a
tops
little
and the yarns.